Hello, Mustang fans, and welcome to another episode of the Mustang Owners Podcast. I'm your host, John Clore, along with my co-host, Mike Ray, and today it's another Get Smart edition. We just have to get smarter about history. We don't have the correct information all the time. So when people ask us questions like, hey, is the Mustang anniversary from 1964 to whatever year, or is it from 1965 to whatever year? The answer is, Mike, the answer is yes, it is both.
Yeah. Yes. And we'll get into the details for Jim.
Yeah. So today we have, welcome back to the show, Jim Smart, the erstwhile Mustang historian, our favorite Mustang historian out there. Jim, thanks for joining us again on another episode of the Mustang Owners Podcast.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. There's just so much yet to be explored and confirmed. And no matter how much you try to confirm all of it, there's a lot of people out there that are going to, argue the point.
Yeah. Well, they're going to get gas on this one, and I don't mean 93 octane.
Oh no, 100 low lead.
Okay, so let's tell everybody out there in podcast land. So I know a lot of you, we've talked about anniversary cars before, just recently on a couple of podcasts about the 60th anniversary car. And that brought up a question that someone emailed to me, and they said, hey, listen, John, I have a question. Why did, if the anniversary of the 60th anniversary car was 2025, and the first Mustang is a 65, that's 60 years. But how come you had a 45th anniversary car, and there was an anniversary car in 1984, the GT350, and some were 64 and some were 65. So we said, that's right. And Jim Smart, Jim, you were around when these cars came out. You probably thought to yourself, hey, an anniversary car, that's a great idea, except is it 1964 that we're celebrating? Or is it 1965? Why did we come out with that? I think the first one, Jim, was the 84 Fox Body GT350 that Edsel Ford and Carroll Shelby had a little disagreement about. Am I correct on that one?
Well, let me give you some history. In June of 83, I interviewed Edsel at the Rensen. And we did a long interview for Mustang Monthly about the Mustang and his involvement, his memories and all that. And it was a nice interview. And then I asked Mr. Ford what Ford Motor Company was doing for the 20th anniversary. And it was a little bit of a deer in the headlights because I don't think anybody thought about it. See, at that point in time, the Mustang was not a big deal at the cusp of the 80s. It was just
okay.
But anyway, I asked Edsel, I said, what does Ford have planned for the 20th anniversary? And he said, well, what would you like to see?
I love it.
Before I could answer him, he looked at Bob Bierman, who was Ford Public Affairs. You probably knew Bob Bierman, right?
Yeah.
Anyway.
He'd been around a long time. He was the guy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he was a great guy. But anyway, he looked at Bob Bierman and said something like, I think we can do something about that or something like that. The next thing I know, there's a 20th anniversary Mustang being produced, and it's like, and I don't know if it was that interview that spurred it or somebody at Ford thought about it, but yeah, the 20th anniversary, and then the GT350 stripes were kind of an afterthought. So,
well, Mike, I would say, based on what we know from talking with a lot of guys on the original program, that Jim Smart caused the 20th anniversary car.
I would love to ask Edsel now to see if he even remembers that and get that answer for Jim.
Well, Jim, we do know that making the 84 GT into a GT350, and it was really in stripe only. That was not that was a sticker package. That was not real GT350, but that caused some problems because Carroll Shelby thought, wait a minute, that's my trademark, and Ford's putting it on a car. And by the time the Fox body came out, that relationship was long gone down the driveway.
Ford and Shelby had since parted ways before that. Ford bought the rights to the Cobra name,
Right. Okay.
but they didn't get the GT350 name. And really, if you look at an 84 Mustang GT, the GT350 stripes are just a graphics thing. There's nothing unique about it. It's a 84 GT. They were all, I think, either Oxford white or polar white, I forget. But the funny thing about the 84 anniversary cars is I think there were labor issues at Dearborn Assembly. I'm not positive, but every single 84 anniversary car I've seen has serious paint issues.
Oh, wow.
I did not know that.
No,
What an
there's
anniversary. That's like my anniversary when I forgot it was my anniversary and I went to CVS and got cupcakes.
well, that won you points.
Oh, it didn't. It's not a good one to remember. So okay, so we make this anniversary car, but Jim and Mike, let's face it, we know how people are when they see it's an anniversary edition. They go, "Oh, I should get one of those because that's going to be a special edition." And I don't care whether I don't know. You guys, I mean, I like special edition books. We have Brad Bowling and Jerry Heasley. They did Mustang special editions. And that was such a fun book to read because it was just the crazy stuff, like the weird regional stuff and the anniversary cars. And then, Mike, did you have Cartex book? Remember the Mustang special editions?
I do not have that one.
John Klein and Jeffrey Klein did this one. This one has all the obscure. So when I looked it up and I said, you guys are right. All you people listening to the podcast, we've had usually, Jim, we would follow the 1964 through the odd number anniversary, and we got it. But then something happened. The Fox body kind of changed all that. And then were we really going to do an anniversary car for like the 93 summer edition cars? Or what was that all about?
89, John.
The 89, that's the whole 7-Up thing, Jim?
Well, the 7-Up was technically a 90, right? But, right, so here we go back with that again. But 89 is when we were talking about earlier was how they just had a little tri-bar that they put on the dash on the inside of the car.
So, Mike, did every Mustang have that? That's to celebrate an edition, but do we have why don't we get an anniversary car like Jim Smart cost? Get an actual, you go to the dealership and say, I want an anniversary car, and they check the box, rather than just say, oh, geez, it's the anniversary. Let's stick that on the dashboard of every car. I mean,
let's take a step back to 84. Various Ford dealers did their own 20th anniversary cars.
Oh, no.
I mean, I'm talking GT350 stripes on a GT convertible. Let me see, 84. Yeah, you had convertibles that year. I'm serious. And I have had mail from people who had a dealer created 20th anniversary car. And the ones produced at Dearborn Assembly as anniversary cars, I think, are numbered, right? There's like 5,260 of them. Yeah. And then there were like 260 produced for Ford executives and that kind of stuff. Anyway, getting back to 89, 90, Ford had no plan for the 25th anniversary, even though it was on CBS. Did you know the Mustang is 25? And I think Tom Corcoran of Mustang Monthly went on CBS this morning and did an interview. But anyway, they really had no plan for the 25th. And I think there was a 25th anniversary cake at Dearborn Assembly and Ford brass all around. But they took the 7-Up cars, which was a failed campaign, and made them 25th anniversary cars. And I forget how many of them were produced. I've got a buddy in New York who has one who could probably tell us more about it. But yeah, the 25th anniversary cars were all failed 7-Up campaign cars.
No, I don't understand. A lot of people thought, doesn't Ford work this stuff out before they go ahead and, they were working with the NCAA. They were going to do this big promotion, and then stuff falls through. Mike, you know how that is. you know.
Yeah, it was for the March Madness tournament, I believe.
Yeah.
Or they didn't call it back that back then. But yeah, we need to have a whole episode just on that vehicle alone.
Yeah. So Jim, the question then becomes: so they sold them as the 7-Up cars, but then that, what you call a failure, sparked the idea. Well, people liked a special color combination, and we came back with special editions.
Well, it goes back to 1970 with the Twister Specials. That was another one of these flops for American Raceways or whatever, pace cars for all their planned tracks. And then they went bankrupt and under. And it's like, what are we going to do with all these 70 Mach 1s? So, because Kansas City is a really powerful sales district, I think Broadway Ford primarily, they took them as Twister Specials,
All right, so
one of my favorite cars, though, to this day. I think they're cool.
yeah,
I see them now.
there's so many special editions, folks, and we're not going to get into that today because right now we're going to consider ourselves just with the anniversary cars. But now we can see that there's a pattern, and the early pattern was that 1965 to 1984, they're looking at 64, the introduction of the Mustang. It was 64 to 84, and that's how they counted anniversaries. And Mike, we were doing that okay for a while. Everything was making sense. Even when I did my second printing of Mustang Dynasty, I wanted to get the 09 car in there because it was the 45th anniversary. And if you recall, Mike, they had that special fender badge, and I used that as a sticker on my book to distinguish that with the other cars. And again, 09, 45th anniversary, that means 64. But then something happened, Jim. Something happened at Ford, and someone thought, well, wait a minute, the Mustang is a 65 Mustang, so the anniversary should be changed to the years on the 5s and the 10s. Now, Mike, you claim to know there was someone who sent you, I have a 1964 and a half car that's titled, but it can't be VIN that way, Mike. Jim, is there a 1964 and a half VIN number?
No. Now, I'll tell you something interesting, though. There were pilot vehicles stamped with a 4S they were destroyed. There was I think only one surviving pilot car, but I've seen an inner fender stamped 4F in error. I wish I could remember where it came from, but I think it had a Fairlane body serial code, something.
Oh, wow. That's super early. Oh, God.
The errored stamps and inner fenders, I've seen a lot of inner fender VINs versus the warranty plate on the driver's door. There were a couple of numbers off. They were installed in error, but not to wander off course here. But there's so many misconceptions out there based on errors. What
about Art and Perry's car, John? Right?
Well, I mean, you mean
those were prototype, vehicles, early ones, right?
They're still
Carls and Perry Loscamps.
Art Carls. There's still 65 Mustangs. Those are
right. But I'm wondering how their VINs were. I never, investigated that with them with that. But
the thing is, pre-production units have an 05C date code, no exceptions.
Okay.
Pre-production units were all date coded 05C, which is just a flag date code. It doesn't mean they were all built March 5th.
Right.
They were built between January and March of 64. But the pre-production cars are just that, pre-production units, and again, we're wandering off course, but each of the pre-production units has a a sequence number on the radiator support. And some people, in restoring these cars, sanded it off. They thought it was unsightly, but it was a handwritten number. So
what you're saying, Jim, it's a myth. If somebody says they have a car that's VINed as a 64 Mustang, that is a myth. That's not true.
No, it is not true. Ford never VINed a Mustang as a 64.
Okay, so Mike, now you can tell that guy that sent you his title that said he's got a 64.
This was years ago he did this, but
Right.
yeah, he literally sent me a picture of it.
That's a myth. Busted. You're busted. Sorry. So that means for years then, Jim, Ford Motor Company said 64 is when we introduced the 65. So as an anniversary, when the world, they call, Mike, we just talked about National Mustang Day, the birthday of the Mustang is recognized as the day Lee Iacocca announced the car, April 17th. And that was in 1964. So here we are, all these little anniversary specials, all the way up to the '09 car, 1964 to whatever a year later on the 9s or the 4s. I got it. But, Mike, what was wrong with Dave Parasak and his group that we had a 50th anniversary Mustang as a 2015 VIN? What happened?
The car we were taking global, right? So yeah, but we celebrated, if everybody remembers, in 2014, we celebrated the 50 year, its own special logo that was John put out in 2013. Remember, I had to fly to New York for the logo unveiling for that, and that was at the end of 2013. And 2014 was celebrated all year long, but when the car came out and launched, the model was a 2015 vehicle.
Okay, so Jim, something happened there. Now, my question to you is, I wrote the Mustang 2015 book, and I went back and we were very close to not having a 2015 by April 17th, 2014. That car, a lot of it couldn't have been put in the book because Ford didn't want a lot of this information out. But the car that they was presented that this is going to be the 2015 Mustang was not well received by upper management. So it had to come back to Dearborn. It had to be redesigned. It got to, it was quite the move. The wheelbase was changed. The design was changed, and it barely made it to Charlotte and Las Vegas, Mike. Yep. And then, as you know, they weren't driving around on April 17th, 2014, but the car was all VINed as a 2015. So now, Mr. Smart, we have a 50th anniversary Mustang from 1965 instead of 1964. We want to know, in your experience, was that just one of these marketing things, which I think it was, or is it nobody really cares or pays attention?
Well, if memory serves, I think Mustang was the first model year introduced prematurely. I say prematurely. April of 64, nobody was thinking about 65 Fords. No. But Mustang was introduced as the 65 Mustang in April of 64, and I think it was the first ahead of the model year introduction. I may be wrong about that.
No, very few. They said that was an Iacocca genius move because everybody waited till the fall when the cars arrived at the dealerships, and he just said World's Fair, New York, huge audience, way ahead of the game. Let's just blow the cover now. And that maybe was genius, but look what it's caused all these years later. Now we're having confusion. What is the anniversary?
Yeah, even though it's a 65 model year car, it was introduced in April of 64, and the way it has needed to stay is the anniversary needs to be whatever, like for 15 it would be 14. In other words, right. Trying to think how to make sense out of that. But
it would be on the odd number of years. It wouldn't be the 5 and 10s to match up. So but Mike and Jim Smart, I know is right about that. And it should have been. So what we're saying is the 50th anniversary car should have been in 2014, Mike, when you were flying all over the country and we were celebrating this new car. But as we all know, the S550 is not a 2014. It's a 2050. So, okay, so we'll give them that. That was a problem. Paris had to pull a rabbit out of his hat, and they had Rajaneer had to change the car, and that story will come out about why it was changed. And okay, so we got it. But then, Mike, 10 years later, the 60th anniversary Mustang shows up at your dealership. Was that a 2024?
2025. And John, here's I got to share my fun fact on that. Okay. I don't know if any other salesperson in the country can say it. I sold one of each of the colors that they made of them.
2025
Anniversary cars, yeah.
60th anniversary. Whereas if you were Ford Motor Company were being run by Jim Smart, it would have been a 2024 60th anniversary of the car rather than. So Jim, you're saying the anniversary should have been on its birthday, which was 64, and that's when we celebrate.
Yeah.
Or are you saying, Jim, April 17th really isn't Mustang's birthday? Please don't say you are. Is April 17th Mustang's birthday, 1964?
That was the day it was introduced.
I agree.
End of
So, Mike, do
story.
you agree? Is April 7th? Okay.
Should be on the 4s and the 9s, right? So
The 4s and the 9s. Okay, so all the 4s and the 9s should have been the anniversary. But if you get any of these books, you look it up online, we have Mustangs that are not there on the 5s and the 0s and the 10s. So, Jim, something happened. People want an explanation. And I think the best way to explain, I'll say it in 2 words. You ready? Ford marketing.
Are you familiar with those people?
After 30 years with Ford marketing, it's just and Jim, before we get online, what are we talking about? Sometimes the continuity of something as long as Mustang, lasting 60 years, is lost on new generations coming into Ford, doing the marketing, doing the sales, even doing the engineering. That there's nobody there that was around in 1964, and they don't. What happened?
That happens over time. I mean, I don't want to be an old fart beating up on the younger people, but hey, we're all old farts here. Anyway.
Hey, wait a minute, Mike.
I'm old too.
Okay.
How old are you, Mike?
55.
Oh, you're still in diapers.
Baby. I got shoes that are that age.
I got shoes that are older than that. In all seriousness, though, it is the continuity over time. It's like watching these old sitcoms, and the continuity is terrible. You know, across a season or seasons. So it's the same thing with model years. Nobody has the time to really go back and look at history the way it's supposed to be. I'm a historian, so I'm a pain in the butt that way. I want history reported accurately, and there's a number of us. I think of Donald. I don't think anybody's researched Mustangs like Donald Farr. I mean, gone to extremes of digging and produced incredible books. But that's the kind of history you want reported accurately. But where in the hell was I going with this? I really am 70.
No, I agree with you. It is the fact that we've gone so long and nobody is watching that brand as the guardian because people change and their backgrounds change and what they think is important changes.
Well, even back in the summer of '83, when I had a nice visit with Edsel, Ford just wasn't thinking about Mustang history because it was just a brand that had been around for 20 years, but I don't think they understood at that time how important the name was. And in the years since, Mustang is Ford's flagship brand, and I think at one time Thunderbird was, but Mustang definitely holds the crown for being the flagship of Ford Motor Company. That and F-Series. I mean,
yeah, the icons. Yeah.
So, Mike, what would you say, being that you ran that local Mustang club here in Detroit for all those years, you know what what your owners and members thought. What would you say on the rank of importance of someone at Ford making sure that Mustang's heritage remains pure, that you stick with, the car has got certain attributes, it's got a certain heritage, and you don't just try to change that around after being an icon. You don't mess with icons. How important is that, do you think, to your members?
I mean, I don't know, but now that they did change it for the last 2, are they really going to change it back? I don't see that happening. I don't know. I don't think anybody's losing sleep over it, but everybody definitely has some opinions for sure of which way it should be celebrated and which year is the true first year of Mustang.
Well, so Jim, Now we got the purists, and I would consider I would consider you, Jim Smart, as a purist.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
and
I,
then there were people that had when the Mach E came out, they figured, well, you can't get the toothpaste back in the tube now. You put that pony
Oh
on.
boy, don't bring the Mach-E up.
I know, and then now we're hearing talk. We just heard Mike Robert Kennedy talk about, well, if we had an S650 and it had 4 doors on it, I'd live with that. People who like the Dodge Charger, they're not the one that chased the bullet down, but they grew 2 doors on it, and they're selling bejesus out of them because it's on a common platform. It's cheap, and so maybe there is a marketing reason, Jim, to sell a 4 door Mustang, but how much changing the anniversary years or changing the purity of what the car is goes towards ruining the icon or keeping it going?
well, they definitely need to stick with 64 to the current.
Okay.
They need to stick with that, get back to it. But as far as what Mustang should be, I think the market for a really a 2-place, 4-place pony car, I feel like the pony car market is beginning to subside because what people want changes. And Mustang has had a good run for over 62 years now. Yeah, that's
Well, it depends how you look at it, right?
With a 26 from
Right,
64. Or maybe it's only 63.
right.
well, but the Mach E is giving the pony car a run for the money. I mean, I'm not thrilled with the idea of Mach E because I'm a purist. But a 4-door Mustang like the 4-door Charger, I'm trying to think if GM has anything like that going on. But a sporty 4-door sedan called Mustang with all the Mustang nuances
Right.
isn't a bad idea because people need a car with more room, more space in it.
Yeah. But on the S650 chassis, a lot of people, Mike, I'm talking longtime club members that I've known. I'm talking longtime Mustang fans and purists that own several Mustangs are not bothered with a 4-door on an S650 as much as they were bothered on a Mustang badge on an SUV. They think it's.
Let me interject this right now as a thinking point: is that Ford only produces Mustang as a car. There is no other car in the Ford lineup at all besides Mustang. So there's no more Tauruses, there's no more Fusions or Focuses or Fiestas. It's only Mustang. And a lot of people still do not realize it. I have people come in all the time. Can I get a Fusion? I'm like, they don't make them anymore. And they're like, well, what cars do they make? Mustang only. I mean, so a 4-door in that lineup might, hit some people that's what they're looking for, for their family car.
See, that's why we brought Jim on. He very pithily said, well, maybe that's something we're evolving into. And Jim, as a purist, as a historian, for you to say that, it shows that you really are very progressive when you think about modern Mustangs. I'm proud of you, Mr. Smart.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that very much. The thing to remember is Mustang is a 2-door pony car, has had a hellacious run, only exceeded by, I think, Corvette.
Except
Not really, because Corvette didn't produce in '83.
They missed that 1 year.
I got one.
Sorry, they had to start over again in '85.
That broke their little streak, if you wanted to, yeah.
I got to tell you something publicly.
Okay.
They built like 5 '83 Vettes that look like '84s. One of them survives and was stuffed in the back of the Bowling Green plant under a tarp or whatever for years, and somebody found it. There is one surviving '83 Vette.
But I heard there was a sinkhole that opened up and it went swallowed up and went back to hell.
But Jim, too, was that a prototype? Because it wasn't a production car for sale, correct?
It was actually I mean, I'm not a Corvette authority, nah. But
Well, none of us would be on this show if we were.
I forget where I learned this, that there's one surviving '83 Vette, and they built like 5 of them, something like that. I mean, I don't know the whole story. You'll have to go to your Corvette history book.
Yeah, John, I would think there was like PP cars or something, though. I mean, they weren't actual production models.
Yeah, I'm still being that we're all purists here. I think Jim's right to say that this car has had a run like no other. So Jim, we want to set it straight. we're going to say right now, Mike, let's announce it. If Ford is going to do a 65th anniversary, it's got to be based on the 65, and it's got to come out in 2029, not in 2030. And you heard it here first on the Mustang Owners Podcast from none other than Jim Smart. Jim, thank you so much for offering your perspective tonight on the Mustang Owners Podcast.
It is a pleasure to be here, and always glad to come back and,
Stir the pot.
yeah.
We got a lot in the bucket to talk over with Jim, don't we?
Yeah, we do. So, folks, I hope you enjoyed that little walk on what the heck happened with anniversaries. Are they 04s and 09s, or are they 5s and 10s? We think we got it solved. We're looking forward to that 65th anniversary from 1965 in 2029. Ford, are you listening? And that's because you heard it here first on the Mustang Owners Podcast. Again, thanks, Jim. Mike, it's always great. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Next time, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button if you like this kind of content, so we can beat that YouTube algorithm as we're closing in on our record-breaking subscriptions. Let's make it happen. And don't forget to pick up your Mustang Owners Podcast apparel, Mike. You're looking smart. And yeah, we'll have to get that over to Jim as well. So until next time, folks, we'll just have to catch you down the road.